So oftentimes I find that providers tell me that they have a hard time understanding how to use the immunization schedule and what exactly some of the things mean. And so let's take a few moments just to sort of think about it a little bit and maybe demystify the schedule itself. So for starters, recognize that the schedule is sort of a combination of a bunch of tables that are put together by the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which is a subcommittee of the CDC. And so the nice thing about it is that we know that it has been vetted by a lot of organizations. So the AAFP, the AAP, ACOG, and a lot of other organizations all get together and approve the schedule beforehand. So the things that you're reading in that ACIP schedule aren't just coming from the CDC. They're coming from a big group of people who really sat down and given some thought to make sure that it's truly an evidence-based recommendation and guideline that you're following. Now, when they put together the table, their goal was not to have some confusing thing that was a mass of colors and lines. What they really wanted to do was try to organize a lot of information into the most straightforward and most simple table to be able to be followed. The problem is that some immunizations are meant to be given at a discrete point in time, and others can be given over wide ranges of time. And so in some places, you're going to see that there are bars. In other places, you're going to see there are boxes. And so for some folks, that seems a little bit confusing because they're like, well, how come there's this sort of bar in one place but a box in another? And the answer is because they're trying to get at whether or not you need to give that shot on that exact date, or whether or not it can sort of span over a few years or over different visits, or whether if you, for example, missed one, it's okay to give it at the next year and it's not really late, it's just sort of within the time frame. And so bars versus boxes is a really important thing to sort of pay attention to. There are age bands though, so you'll notice that across the top of the table they have different age groups, and the age groups actually matter. They matter enough that, for example, when they found that a lot of patients were seeming to miss that 16-year-old catch-up visit, that they actually put in a separate bar just for the 16-year-old visit, just to make sure that you remember that 16-year-old visits are actually important. And so it's interesting to pay attention. That table's got ages across the top and the vaccines down the side. And when you're looking through the table, making sure that you sort of line up what the age is that you're talking about. So what age is my patient today? And then which of the vaccines I actually need to have. Now, one thing I've found is that sometimes people don't realize that the colors of the boxes actually matter too, so that the colors mean something different. In some cases, the color means that it can be given to any group. In other cases, the color means that it should only be given to high-risk folks. So pay attention to the legend at the bottom of the table. So you have lots of ways to access the schedule. So from a laminated copy that you may get in the mail from the AAFP, to the published copies that show up in the CDC's literature or in the AAFP's literature, like American Family Physician, all the way down to apps or electronic ways where you may be able to see it there. So there's many, many different ways to access the schedule. Finally, sometimes people seem to have a little bit of confusion about why there are different tables and why some of the tables seem to have other information that are just different from that first table. And everybody tends to think about the immunization schedule as just that first box with all the different colored lines. But the reality is that if you're trying to figure out some more detailed information, the footnotes for that table may actually be the place that you want to go. So if you're looking at the table and you're not really sure exactly what they mean, skip down to the number that is the footnote and read the details there. A lot of times the answers to all of your questions can be found right there in the text. So the immunization schedule, while complicated at times, really is meant to be a much more simplified way of seeing a lot of information all at one time. Use it to your advantage. Pay attention to the colors, pay attention to the lines and the grids, and make sure that you're taking a look at those footnotes to make sure there's not something small that you might be missing.